Thank you. We have Senator Roth and then Senator Nielsen, then we want to get to public comment, and Senator Block. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I come to this from a slightly different direction than my colleague from Southwest Riverside County does. I've been consistently concerned with the governor's proposals with these competitive grants from this standpoint. Small to medium-sized districts frequently lack the resources and the personnel to properly prepare competitive grant applications that can succeed in this marketplace, if you will, that we've created. I think from my perspective, it may not be proven by the facts, but at least my perception is that that was somewhat the case with the original rollout of the Career Pathways Trust. And so I'm looking for a system that allows small to medium-sized districts that cannot afford the highly skilled, highly paid grant writing teams to be able to field some sort of career tech education program. May not be a perfect program, may not be all-encompassing, but at least it allows them to participate in this particular sandbox. And so when I noticed the governor's proposal as revised took into account some of my concerns about using the Career Pathways Trust funds as matching funds, and I appreciate that effort. I'm not sure what prioritizing programs in rural school districts and regions with high student dropout rates means. Maybe it's just because I haven't been able to dig down into the detail. So I guess if that really is spelled out in some detail and that works, that might help alleviate some of my concerns. So I do look to the legislative proposal as a potential solution where you use the ADA to drive the money out, provided that these conditions, these 5 that are set out in our analysis, are actually met before the money is distributed. And then there's some opportunity to do a look back at goals and objectives and applying performance metrics to make sure that those standards are met, and if not, that there is a consequence. So could we not design a program to measure effectiveness and outcomes under the legislative proposal?
So I think, as the LAO mentioned, we do have an accountability system related to career tech. It's part of our LCAP plan that every school district is required to submit to the state. And in there's a specific section about career technical education and the quality of that education. So I think in terms of these additional criteria, related to an ADA type distribution, I think it really is just a very different approach than the one that we took, which is really about infusing one time over these 3-year periods into really designing, upgrading, transforming existing programs, building new programs from the ground up. I think that the ADA approach doesn't really allow that as well, unless school districts are prioritizing a large amount of their base resources to do that transformation as well. So I think that, we continue to maintain that our proposal that is targeted to the areas of the state with high dropout rates and also the rural areas where you don't have those economies of scale because the geographics don't lend themselves to being able to participate in neighboring schools programs, that this is, we think a sound, good approach to really move career tech forward.
Well, Mr. Chair, may I ask a follow-up? But given that then, assuming a small district or even perhaps a medium-sized district that's strapped staff-wise despite the money that we are sending down the pipeline, the governor's proposal does not include any component for assistance to these districts in preparing they still have to prepare an application. They still have to, probably wade through however many pages of qualifying statements in regulations somewhere. How do they do that and successfully compete? Because if you don't submit the application, then you can't be prioritized. So if it seems to me, not to belabor this, so I'll be quick, Mr. Chair, that if if the governor's proposal is the proposal that flies, there needs to be a piece of it that is provided, where you provide assistance to districts that are really the have-not districts to be able to get into the game and swing the bat, is my only comment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Roth. Senator Nielsen and then Senator Block.
Well, I'm willing to explore some kind of a hybrid that accomplishes some of the purpose I think I understand Senator Roth is trying to accomplish, only to a degree, though. I embrace the governor's concept, and I will say it's consistent with other ways the governor has looked at targeting money in the past towards the areas of greatest need where the dollars are going to be most efficiently and effectively and have the most singular greatest impact. And this is not something new, really. It's tried and proven. Way back in early 80s, there was something called SB 187 that I worked with the agricultural career tech, or was called vocational education then. That bill passed, and for the first time ever, a discipline within education imposed on themselves standards. And that's where this is headed as well. One of the fundamental successes of that SB 187 that is still around is VOCAG imposed on itself standards. So there's an accountability. There is a monitoring. And then we coupled that, and one of my partners on that has a room named here after her, Senator Roseanne Boych, the incentive grants. And last year, having made a little bit of progress, Career Tech in total, years before, but last year there was a huge setback for Career Tech Ed. And I want to get into that detail, but it was dismaying. Some of it we were able to nudge back and recover, but it was still a setback. The governor's submitted budget in January was one we could rejoice with this concept and the proposal that the governor has advanced now. And not only was the Ag Incentive Grant continued, but the extended grant was extended to the rest of career tech education, as it should be. That provides, in fact, that incentive to build those unique programs within the local districts. Again, and that coupled with the accountability causes me much to prefer the governor's model. Ms. Bosworth, could you comment on that? Am I kind of calling the evolution of this in the governor's mind reasonably accurately?
I do recall the discussion around the Ag Incentive Grant last year, and that was something that is a small categorical program that continues, that is a unique program because it is a grant. It has a local advisory boards that are required as a component of the grant, and there are standards related to that grant. This is somewhat similar, but it's a bit different in that it is short-term, and this is really about competitive grant that will build and modernize career tech programs that will be sustained long-term by the local school boards' base allocations through their LCFF.
I'd like to hearken to that, but would you give thought, as I intend to some of the points that Senator Roth has made, to see if there might be some kind of accommodation or ways that this can be crafted to adopt to some of those concerns he raised? That's all for now.
Thank you, Senator Nielsen. Senator Roth. Sorry, Senator Block.
Poor Marty.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The subcommittee was, I think, in strong consensus that a robust CTE program was important in every district or as many districts as possible throughout the state, that all of California's students should have an opportunity to participate in CTE. We felt that, or I felt at least, that putting the money only to a relative handful of districts who already had successful programs was going to leave out many of our students, that the ADA distribution was a better way to go. That in fact, since the monies are going to disappear in 3 years, and this is a takedown of the funding, that if all districts don't get kind of seed money now, we won't see CTE programs being created then in districts that don't get that funding now. So we felt it important that the ADA distribution go forward, particularly as Senator Ross said, for the smaller districts who don't have the capacity perhaps to have a grant writing staff to really compete on an even level with the larger districts. As far as the vice chair's concerns, very good concerns about accountability, we felt that the preconditions, 1 through 5, and under legislative proposal, those preconditions to getting the ADA funding would assure that all districts were moving in the right direction, and then more importantly, that the LCAP, which every district provides to their county office of education, which tells where they want to go, what their outcomes should be in 8, I think, different areas, one of which is career technical education, that by determining in advance their own district's goals and objectives, because it'll differ throughout the state, by determining their own goals and objectives, making that part of their local control accountability plan, submitting it to the county office, and having the county office then monitor their success in reaching those goals and objectives, we think there's accountability built in too. So we think the proposal, legislative proposal, is a good one. Having said that, this will be going to conference committee. Our proposal actually is that trailer bill language be refined as needed, and certainly the comments here and whatever public comments we get will be taken into consideration by conference. But we think this is the right direction to, at least at this point in the conversation, be going. And with that, I'd move to approve this item.
Thank you, Senator Block. Senator Nielsen, you had a final comment?
Yes. As far as the governor's position, I am inclined to believe that the legislative proposal would not be acceptable to the governor. Is that an accurate assumption?
Yes, so our Career Tech Incentive Grant, I think it's important to put it in the broader context of all of the K-12 school funding. There is $6.2 billion under the May revision proposal that will be going out under the local control funding formula. That's money that is discretionary at the local level. For high school ADA, there is a 2.5% additional amount for high school students. That LCFF formula was designed with high schools in mind so that they could invest in these more expensive career tech proposals with their base resources. So it's really important to remember that this is really an incentive grant program. This is about transforming, really building new programs in specific areas of the state that have high dropout rates, that need some additional help. So this is, this is a very targeted proposal. There is still a significant amount of money going out in the base resources. We expect that many of those dollars will also be invested in career tech education as well. But this is really about a different kind of targeted approach that we're proposing.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I prefer this approach and would move a substitute motion that the governor's language be adopted at this point. We can discuss it further in conference, but I'd rather go into conference with the governor's proposal. I would move a substitute motion.
Thank you, Senator Nielsen. I think we have another comment by Senator Allen.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that the subcommittee didn't vote on this. I think we very much share what Senator Block said with regards to having a really high quality, equitable CTE program. I think that there do continue to be some concerns about, the extent, what we can do to really make sure that dollars are actually going to CTE, that they don't just get enveloped into the big budgets of school districts. We all know that this governor really hates categoricals in many respects, and yet in this incident, he's, I think got some legitimate concerns about accountability. And I think also, as we've heard, he's been involved with 6 months of negotiations with industry and others. So there are concerns about this, about where this goes if we totally disregard what he's proposed. So I just wanted to, the subcommittee did not make a decision on this, and I think we're all mulling over and grappling with these sorts of challenges with regards to both, just to make sure the money's well spent and it goes to high quality programming.
Senator Hancock.
Yeah, just very briefly. I have been a proponent for CTE, as many of you know, throughout my entire time in the legislature. On thinking about the pros and cons, which have been very eloquently stated by everyone on each side, I have to say that I would come down in favor of the ADA. because in my view, a 3-year limited term funding needs to allow all districts, large, small, needy, whatever, to plan with some idea of stability. And I've experienced, when I worked for the U.S. Department of Education, and we sent out the first grants for our after-school program, and we found some of the neediest schools weren't applying. And we actually did a survey of calling the principals and asking them, and they'd say, we can't afford a grant writer for these complicated things. So for me, I think that we need to work together as this moves to conference to get some really good criteria to make sure that we get quality programs. But I think for the long term, getting these programs going on an ADA basis would probably be good. And some of the districts I represent have career technical partnership grants, but I'm thinking about making sure that we reach out to every district in the state.
Thank you, Senator. So we have Senator Allen.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I apologize. I guess one of the things that I wanted to bring up was the issue of the value of consortia, and and I just want us to be cognizant of some of the exciting work that's going on with Senator McGuire and Senator Leyva. They've got a very interesting CTE proposal that they're anxious to see move forward that's very much grounded in respect for the value of CTE. One of my thoughts is I hear the concerns out there about smaller districts not having the capacity to write competitive grants. They've actually got a little line in their bill to provide assistance to districts to make sure they're a little more competitive. I'm not sure that just giving the money, I like to think that there's other ways that we can help make those districts more competitive in their grant seeking procedures than just giving them money without requiring them to, justify very much. So, and I also just wanted to see if there's anything we can do to try to create consortia or encourage consortia for small school districts where they can come together, pool resources. I've seen it done very effectively in my district, as opposed to just having the money just go out to the school district's budgets and just get subsumed into the broader budget. I think Senator McGuire has some really compelling data about how even when money is supposed to be allocated to CTE, it just ends up not going there, and it doesn't end up leading to high quality programs. There's data on this from the past, and I'm just concerned about it.
Thank you, Senator. So I think we have turned this over and about and looked at it from just about every angle. Clearly, there are concerns on both sides, both caucuses, and our vote today, and we will be taking up Senator Nielsen's motion first and then Senator Block's, will have the same effect of taking us to conference committee. So no definitive decision is going to be enacted. Senator Stone, and then we're going to get the public comment. I think we could spend a full hour on this one item alone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this the importance of this program deserves the debate that we're having, and I certainly agree with my colleague from Los Angeles. There needs to be some performance standards to make sure that we actually get the money into career technical education. My concern is that the wealthier districts are the ones that are larger that probably already have career technical education programs going. And we're talking about a 3-year program here where we're basically condemning the smaller districts to not having successful career education programs. And I'm concerned about the Coachella Valley, where I have a number of small districts that have largely Hispanic English as a second language curriculum. And I believe that, and it's not by coincidence that these are the areas of my district that have the highest unemployment. So I don't think we're looking at the need of the smaller districts that are trying to educate their kids, keep them in school, give them trades so that they can become productive members of society, maybe even go on to college. So I hope that there's due consideration to these formulas and looking at unemployment numbers, looking at dropout rates in school districts, English as a second language. There needs to be an equitable program so that every youngster in the state of California that doesn't want to go to a college or university can thrive through some well-funded career technical education program that has the checks and balances to make sure that the money is appropriately used. And I think that's the direction that the governor has been trying to go towards, and I hope one that this committee will strive towards.
Thank you, Senator Stone. Well articulated. Could I see a show of hands how many folks are here to speak on this item? Okay, I'm going to ask if you could keep your comments to within a minute. And if someone else has your comment already spoken, we respect that you not repeat everyone. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senators, Fred Jones on behalf of the California Business Education Association. Those are CTE instructors. And I can tell you, having read the governor's proposal, it's 3.5 pages long. That's it. My instructors can write these grants. There's only 11 performance criteria. And if they don't know what those criteria are, they shouldn't get the money. So this is a very simple grant to write for any program that is doing high quality CTE. So we would strongly urge you to support the governor's May revise proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Enrique Roacho with the California Association of School Business Officials, and we appreciate the changes that have been made since the May revise, but we continue to believe that the staff recommendation that ADA basis is the most appropriate approach to ensure that all high school students have an opportunity to benefit from CTE courses. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roacho.
I'm Ernie Silva with SciATech. We're the Dropout Recovery High School. We partner with Department of Labor programs. And therein lies the rub. As we believe that this, whatever you decide, ought to have accountability, the language that I hope I can work with staff on moving forward that focuses on the state sequencing and alignment, while the U.S. Department of Labor has its own systems and they often align with the states, they don't always. We would want to have language that was flexible enough to ensure that our programs are going to be included as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Silva.
Leticia Garcia on behalf of Riverside County Schools. We also support staff's recommendation to allocate those CTE dollars on a per ADA basis. CTE is part of our core academic program in our county, so these additional dollars will go a long way in ensuring that we use those dollars to invest and strategically plan ahead to create, to modernize, and to expand these critical programs for our students in Riverside, throughout Riverside County. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia.
Good afternoon, Martha Alvarez on behalf of the San Diego Unified School District. We also support the staff recommendation to allocate the money on a per student allocation. As it has mentioned by the staff in the LAO and Department of Finance, the state's accountability system already requires CTE for all 9 to 12 high school students. It's part of our LCAP state priorities. So like Senator Block mentioned, this is just seed money that would help all districts in California to be able to maintain and expand existing CTE programs. So we encourage the staff recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alvarez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Jeremy Smith here on behalf of the State Building and Construction Trades Council. We support the governor's plan for a competitive grant, and I would just remind the committee that for the last year that we have numbers from the Department of Education, we lost, in 2014, the state lost 50,000. There was 50,000 fewer students taking a CTE course between 2012 and 2013, and that's under ADA funding. So it's clear the ADA funding, when you give the money to the districts, not all districts are bad, but when you give the money to some of the districts, they don't necessarily use it for CTE. The CTE numbers, most recent data we have from the Department of Education shows that we had 50,000 fewer students taking CTE, and that's under ADA funding. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Leilani Aguinaldo-Yee on behalf of the Los Angeles Unified School District. We support the staff recommendation to distribute the CTE funding on an ADA basis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nicole Rice, California Manufacturers and Technology Association. We too also support the governor's proposal to have the money allocated in an incentive grant. And I'd like to say, as an industry that has a skills gap and a desperate need for trained workers, we are interested in having high-quality, industry-relevant programs. We know that the staff's recommendation has included such things as certifying that year plan has been developed with an industry advisory group. That self-certification is concerning to us because we're not sure what type of entity that they're actually going to be certifying that they've developed and who they're working with. We support the standards that are in the governor's proposal because they are the 11 quality criteria standards that the state uses to identify what a high-quality program is. And like I said, for an industry that is in desperate need of trained workers, we do need to have high-quality, industry-relevant programs that align to the other efforts that are taking place in the state's workforce development system. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Chris Walker on behalf of the California Association of Sheet Metal Air Conditioning Contractors, representing 600 contractors statewide who have been working over a decade to try to bring back rigorous, relevant, and high-quality career technical education for our public schools. We are absolutely in support of the governor's proposal, and we would oppose the staff's proposal on two key grounds. One is the ADA distribution method would reestablish a categorical, undeniable categorical, and it would be the highest dollar amount categorical in our budget. The governor has made it very clear that he will oppose and he will veto any further categoricals, creations of categoricals. So why even go there? The second one is on accountability. We're for high quality programs. The criteria put forward by the staff proposal is good start. It's about of a good start in terms of the criteria, but remember, it's self-certifying at the end of the day. So where is the accountability? If I have to check 6 boxes and I have to certify I check 6 boxes, is there any question that I check 6 boxes? We support the governor's proposal. Let's bring high-quality career tech back. Thank you.
Mr. Chair and members, Corey Salzillo on behalf of the California State Sheriff's Association. I hope it's appropriate to just give a brief word of thanks for the staff and Senate and administration's work on the adult ed block grants. There was no public comment on that issue for protecting the adults in correctional facilities funding. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That says it all. I was fascinated because I wasn't quite sure where anyone in line was going to fall on this. We're all over the map, so clearly the good news is we have some time to work on this, and good points made on both sides. We do have 2 motions. Our process is such that we need to go to conference with one or the other motions. We cannot leave this open ourselves, and we can't take a non-action to get to caucus, to conference. So procedurally, we have a substitute motion by Senator Nielsen. We'll take it up first. If it does not pass, we will then come back to the original motion by Senator Block, and then we will move on to the next item. So again, Senator Nielsen's motion is to accept the governor's proposal, and Senator Block's is to take the staff recommendation. And we will call the roll on Senator Nielsen's motion for the governor's proposal.
Leno?
No.
Leno, no. Nielsen?
Aye.
Nielsen, aye. Allen? Anderson?
Aye.
Anderson, aye. Bell? Bell, no. Block? Block, no. Hancock? Hancock, no. Mitchell? No. Mitchell, no. Monning? No. Monning, no. Morlock?
Aye.
Morlock, aye. Wynn?
Aye.
Wynn, aye. Pan?
Aye.
Pan, aye. Pavley? Pavley, no. Roth?
No.
Roth, no. Stone?
Aye.
Stone, aye. Wolk? Wolk, no. 6 aye. 9 no.
6-9, the motion fails. So we will now take up Senator Block's motion for the staff recommendation.
Leno?
Aye.
Leno, aye. Nielsen?
No.
Nielsen, no. Allen? Anderson?
No.
Anderson, no. Bell? Bell, aye. Block? Block, aye. Hancock? Hancock, aye. Mitchell? Mitchell, aye. Monning? Monning, aye. Morlock?
No.
Morlock, no. Wynn?
Aye.
Wynn, aye. Pan? Pan, aye. Pavley? Pavley, aye. Roth? Roth, aye. Stone?
No.
Stone, no. Wolk? Wolk, aye. That's 11 aye, 4 noes.
11-4, the motion passes. Page 4 is issue 2.
I believe this is just a conforming item to the one prior related to the state operations required to do either an ADA or our proposal, which is the competitive grant proposal.
Leo?
That's correct. This would just reflect workload changes associated with administration of a competitive grant versus ADA, in that the competitive grant, the proposal put forth by the administration would be 2 positions and $350,000 until the competitive grant ends. And to conform with the legislative, or with the staff proposal that was just approved, it would be $175,000 and 1 position for the 3 years of the ADA
The
grant.
thought being, if there's not the competitive grant process.
We'll need 1 less person.
Right, okay. Senator Block?
I just move that we conform item 2 to the action already taken in item 1.
Very good, thank you. Any questions, comments from the committee? No public comment? Yes, Senator Pan.
So if item 1 goes to conference, does this get included in that? Because if something changes in conference, does this, I'm trying to understand how the dynamic works.
All of it will be going to conference, so, but this just conforms to the action that the committee just has taken.
Okay, thank you.
Call the roll, please.
Leno?
Aye.
Leno, aye. Nielsen?
No.
Nielsen, no. Allen? Anderson?
No.
Anderson, no. Bell? Bell, aye. Block? Block, aye. Hancock? Hancock, aye. Mitchell? Mitchell, aye. Monning? Monning, aye. Morlock?
Aye.
Morlock, aye. Wynn? Wynn, aye. Pan? Pan, aye. Pabley? Pabley, aye. Roth? Roth, aye. Stone?
No.
Stone, no. Wolk? Wolk, aye. Allen, aye. That's 13 aye, 3 noes.
13-3, the item passes. Moving on to issue 4 on page 6. Child care and early learning.
Yes, as the agenda notes, the governor's budget does include significant investments in child care programs and the state preschool program. In terms of the legislative proposal and the staff recommendation, we do not support the manipulation of the Proposition 98 guarantee and moving child care back under the guarantee. So and then really overall, we continue to be concerned about ongoing commitment of additional resources that the state cannot support over the long term. As I mentioned in my earlier remarks, we are already looking at an operating deficit in 2018-19 of over $2 billion. So additional ongoing commitments of the level being proposed here are a considerable concern to the administration.
Thank you, Ms. Bosler. LAO, before you review the legislative proposal, could you give us a brief history of child care and Prop 98, just so we have some foundation to begin the conversation?